Hello gang, welcome to Psych 1. Today we'll be looking at a study of subjectivity. We dig into the problem with modern rating systems. In this day and age, simplification is a major factor of how we perceive things. I mean, take a look at the layout of YouTube and how it's dramatically simplified over the course of its establishment. Similarly, you'll see a lot of industries rate something based on a simple number system, because it's simpler. Ironically though, there are many complications that can go into this. Let's take a look at IGN and GameSpot and their approaches to rating games. Both of these companies use the similar out of 10 system, only IGN also includes decimal points, effectively rating a game out of 100 instead of 10. On the other hand, GameSpot primarily focuses on giving whole number ratings. So which one of these approaches is actually better? I believe GameSpot is the winner here. Because there is a greater number of possibilities in rating something out of 100, the differentiation between each individual rating point becomes lower. For example, what would differentiate an 8.4 out of 10 versus an 8.5 out of 10? Since an 8.5 is obviously a higher score than an 8.4, this change in the rating is tiny, so what will be the factor that determines the difference between these two scores? While I understand that IGN may have some elaborately intricate criteria to rate small differences like this that I'm not aware of, I highly doubt that's the case. A whole number rating, on the other hand, gives more of a differentiation to determine the appropriate rating. For example, you can say that a game has strong gameplay but a poor execution of level design, and that will factor in more of a difference whether the game receives a 7 or 8 out of 10. It's much easier to differentiate these two scores rather than decimal numbers. I also like this whole number system better because you're more certain of what to rate something. For example, if you had to choose whether to rate a game an 8 or 9 out of 10, you would need to be more aware of your decision to rate it. If you factor in decimals, you may need to think along the lines of, I don't know if I should give this an 8 or a 9, but I'm more lenient towards giving it a 9, so maybe I'll stick with an 8.7. Now, you may think that this is a valid option, but remember, you will be falling into the trap of the decimal rating point because you're more uncertain between each decimal point because the difference in the score is so little. After all, I can sway you to change your rating easier if you use decimals, while it's harder to do that if you're strictly sticking to whole numbers. If you only have the options of an 8 or a 9, it's a yes and no situation. You either commit to something or you don't. However, I do believe it's also important to weigh in more diverse variety of reviewers. Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes illustrates this idea quite well. You'll see a score mixed in with both critics and public scores, with the public score shown as an average of 100% of what people rate it. This system works quite nicely, because showing the average percentage of both critics and user ratings provides a more precise amount, because it's based from a more diverse population. More importantly, however, you're able to see a rating that's free from industrial influences. What does it mean when you rate something a 10 out of 10? It just means it's the absolute perfection, and nothing can top it. And this can pose a huge problem. For example, let us assume that Naruto is the greatest anime series of all time. It's really not. As a result, it warrants a 10 out of 10 rating. Now, let us assume that Naruto 2 comes out, and it's distinctively better than the first. So, would it still be fair if people rate Naruto 2 a 10 out of 10 as well? Many people get upset when something they subjectively like gets flogged with poor ratings by others. But I think that's only because they don't understand the meaning of a perfect rating. For example, in IGN's review of the game Uncharted 4, the game critic gave it a 9.0 out of 10.
Uncharted 4 carries on the series' proud tradition of peerless polish and style, with a great multiplayer component to boot. Most importantly, it's a gentle send-off to the
I actually think this is a fair rating. As much as I would love to give Uncharted 4 a higher score, giving it a 10 out of 10 would effectively define what a perfect game looks like. It will be impossible for anything better than Uncharted 4 to receive a higher score. Nice move, IGN. How is it that determines whether something is considered to be universally good or not? Let us use the game Red Dead Redemption for an example. Let's assume that 80% of players loved the game, while 20% hated it. As a result, the rating for the game on Metacritic averages the score of 80 out of 100. From this data, is Red Dead Redemption a universally good game? I mean, ask anyone from the 80% and they'll say yes, but anyone from the 20% will say no. Here's the problem. Just because something gets a good rating, it does not make it good. Everyone has their independent thoughts, and not everyone will match the overall norm. It's simply impossible that the same product will appeal to everyone. However, the same also applies vice versa. Just because you see something has a bad rating, it does not mean you will not like it as well. So what should you take away from this? Well, for starters, don't listen to the norm. If you're debating what to eat, don't let online ratings sway you to make a decision. If you really like Indian food, but sees that the nearby Indian restaurant has poorer ratings than the adjacent French restaurant, go for the Indian food. In other words, don't be afraid to try out something for yourself, then determine whether or not you like it. Who knows? Maybe you'll be surprised with your results. It's okay to disagree with others as long as there's a valid reason. And don't let a simple digit of number influence your opinion. This has been Psych 1 with the study of subjectivity. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.